how do you make that determination?
Can I jump?
Yeah, go
Hold on,
ahead.
tag, you're it.
Yeah, sorry. So you made two interesting statements there. The first one is that we know through the same way that you do. Okay, so I'm guessing you're proposing some type of theory and knowledge here in which one can accept
Sure.
or can hold a position of knowledge,
Or
but yet lack a belief
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
in something. Repress something like a belief.
You're cutting out. I didn't get that.
Yeah, Socka, you need to get back to your Sock account because you're cutting in and out.
So Socka, if let me know when you're ready. I'll fill in until you get into a better spot. So when you're talking about a theory of truth, I think
Okay. Well, sorry.
Yeah, he's on his way home. When you talk about truth, right? You're presupposing that other people need these presuppositions to somehow interact with the world and to determine what is true. In reality, that's something that you have a priori established. But if I tell you, well, how do I know that this bottle no longer has water in it? There, at no point in time do I need to presuppose a deity to determine what corresponds with reality, unless you can determine or illustrate to me where would God need to come in this equation for me to determine the truth of whatever is in this bottle.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now, guys?
Yeah, that's a bit better.
So
okay, good.
my response would be your question assumes truth, which assumes logic, which presupposes reason, which assumes knowledge, which presupposes an absolute standard who is God. But
No,
for
that's
you,
not true. No, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay, because what you just said there was a whole lot of hogwash. It's actually not true.
Yeah.
You know, because the first thing that you got to do is you got to stop trying to prescribe what different people's other people's epistemic frameworks are. You know, did Drake say that he was a foundationalist and he laid out what the presuppositions that he holds or the properly basic beliefs of his system was? I mean, how do you know that he's not a foundherentist or a coherentist in those cases there? I mean, what other epistemic frameworks do you know about that exist that wouldn't have to start with the presupposition of something? Okay? You're coming in here trying to tell somebody what their epistemic framework is, and you're putting a lot of claims out there that you want people just to kind of admit and just try to, give into. How about this? How about we start off with the basic claim right there? You started off with one, is that your worldview, I'm guessing the Christian worldview of revelational epistemology, is the only worldview which can account for logic. Okay? Now that's a positive claim. I want you to demonstrate how every other worldview fails. To provide the tools of intelligibility.
Okay. Well, my response would be like, you can't start with knowledge, truth, or logic unless you start with God, which is the foundation of all.
You're just reiterating the claim. I'm asking you to justify this.
Well, what I'm saying, you cannot justify where your knowledge claims come from because you cannot justify.
You don't even know what my position is.
Tu quoque fallacy.
Okay. You don't know what my position is.
Well, that's not a tu quoque fallacy.
I'm asking you to justify your claim.
That's not a tu quoque fallacy because I get my knowledge.
Here, I mean, listen. If you can't validate the very premise that you're trying to put out here, why should I take you seriously? Anything? What if I told you that I was let's say for example that I was a coherentist? Okay. What would you say then?
Could you describe the way that you're that way?
Oh, hold on, mister. Come on. You have everything all figured out.
Wait, hold on for a second. Socka. Skyout, do you know what he means by him being a coherentist?
I didn't catch the last part. Now, go ahead. What do you mean by that?
Well, no. Do you know what I mean by coherentism? Because you said that your worldview is the only one that does this, which I'm assuming is then you've taken a detailed analysis of every other worldview out there and other epistemic frameworks out there, and I'm asking you, how does this hold up against somebody who argues from the position of coherentism?
I'm not too sure, but basically.
Okay, so how about this? You just don't know what you're talking about. You're repeating buzzwords here.
Can I interject for a second here?
Well, I don't think you got the part, Skyout, where Dragnauct pretty much told you did not want to come in this hangout.
This is the problem
Hey.
with people who are precept. They
Yep.
don't know how
Mhm.
to handle coherentists at all. This is exactly what we laugh at, because the second people, that's why I didn't tell him that I'm a foundherentist. He presumed that I was a foundationalist, and he presumed that Socka, Bartholomew, was a foundationalist, and neither one of us are. We don't have presuppositions in the same way that he pretends that we do. I, to some degree, will have some, and I'll offer no justifications for properly basic beliefs because they're properly basic. That's
Right.
ridiculous. But as a coherentist, he has none. So if you're presuming that at any point in time that Socka has a presupposition, you are not accurately depicting his position as a coherentist.
So let me get this straight. So if he's going to say that they're based on his axioms that are not truth claims, they're not knowledge claims.
He doesn't have axioms. That's literally what he does not have axioms as a coherentist.
Then I agree. Then all he has is subjective assumptions to degrees of
No,
knowledge.
it's not subjective at all.
Hey, Skyout.
No. So let me ask you one question.
Hold
Okay,
Oh man.
hold on with this one guy. Okay, sorry.
Okay. You're fine. I don't want to interrupt anyway.
So with these conversations here, okay, let's try to. I'm not trying to do this to be combative. What I want to do is I want to disabuse you of bad ideas, and that's what you're full of right now. You're full of bad ideas.
Okay.
You have a philosophical toolkit that's incomplete, and you try to assert things out there without actually having any knowledge of what the topic is at all. Okay. Now I'm not an expert in this at all. Okay, I'm not like professional philosopher or anything, but I can tell you that I've done probably a little bit more cursory reading of the topic than you have. Okay, and I would recommend like that if you are interested in actually starting off the conversations about epistemology, go out and read some Bonjour. Okay, he's got a great book out there on epistemic problems. So you can find stuff like that, and it will go over all the different type of epistemic frameworks that are out there. But to the very first part here, let's just assume that I'm no spring chicken here, and I've done this for a while. The very thing that you try to put out there, the fancy wordplay that says that your worldview is the only one that can account for the tools of intelligibility, or rationality, or laws of logic. Okay, and that's a talking point that is used by a lot of people. A lot of people that are actually don't even represent the arguments properly. You're not going to find a lot of.
Sweet Jesus.
Sorry.
My
Bus,
God, man.
Holy
Please.
Sorry. You're not going to find a lot of people. You're not going to find a lot of people that are going to, especially in the professional kind of presuppositions, people that have read about the stuff, like Bonson or Van Til, that would hold and advocate a position like that. Do you know why it's necessary for you to say that the Christian worldview is the only one that can account for the tools of intelligibility? Do you know where that comes from?
Go ahead.
I'm asking you. You've heard it as a buzzword, but where have you ever actually done like kind of an analysis of that to see whether or not that is even true for yourself?
I'm not exactly too sure. I didn't catch. I heard a lot of noise in the background. I didn't hear half the things you were saying, so I do apologize. Could you just narrow it down to one question?
Okay, sure. I'm sure that you've heard it, because all preceptors have heard this, and they've all kind of presented this argument, where they say that their worldview is the only one they account for the tools of intelligibility.
Okay.
Where did you hear that from, and how do you know that that's true?
I didn't hear it from anyone. Those are just arguments that in conversation that they don't really pertain to where I heard it, or it's just a way of having a conversation in the context of different worldviews and the categories of worldviews. That's the clash that we're experiencing right now. You're an atheist, right? I think this is the first time we talked, so I don't know how you're saying you've heard everything I said from before. So,
because it's not new. You're not original. You're not a special flower. I'm sorry.
Nope.
well, I'm totally a special flower, but
so let's look at it this way, okay?
Undefeated.
Let's put this out there, okay? Now, you said that this was an argument. Well, I beg to differ, okay? To say that your worldview is the only one that can account for tools of intelligibility is not an argument. That's a conclusion of an argument. Now, what I'm asking from you is I'm asking for the argument.
So you're asking me why the argument for the what do you call it? the rational intelligibility of the I was going to say universe, but I forget where you're trying to go with
The
this.
conclusion that God is needed to be presupposed in order to have intelligibility. That is a conclusion. If you were to pull it in a syllogism, it would be a conclusion. What are the premises that lead to it?
Okay, the premises would be, thank you for clearing that up, by the way. The premises would be, my view is that there is no amount of concrete physical reality that is self-explanatory. So when you see intelligibility, you assume intelligence behind it, and you see the entrance to the history of God to himself. So there's that intelligibility, you assume that intelligence behind it. And so there is no amount of concrete physical reality that's self-explanatory. So whenever you see things in intelligibility, you assume that there's a mind behind it, just like in the universe. So in the universe, there's a rational intelligibility of the universe that is supernatural and existential. So God is transcendent. There's intelligibility from him and intelligence from him that's rational and intelligible from the universe that he has a supernatural existence, and it's transcendent. So there is no amount of concrete physical reality that's self-explanatory, that when you see intelligibility, you always assume intelligence behind it, and you see a mind behind it, and so you see God.
I gotta cut you off. All I'm hearing are a lot of just claims and just conclusions. I'm not hearing any premises.
Carlton, this is literally the longest tautology I've ever listened to.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's like it sounds like a really word salady Jordan Peterson Kalam cosmological argument. That's what I'm hearing.
So
you don't have to like it.
Well, no,
it's not that I never said about liking it or not.
Well, the amount of times you had to say assume in that should have been a tip-off that because you've made these assumptions a priori, that you somehow then apply that to everyone else as though that's the most parsimonious way to approach this. But if I were to take out, like, what about what you just presented, right?
Yeah, I mean,
needs to have those assumptions built in there in order for you to operate as a human being.
Scott, like I
just want to point out as well too that there wasn't really an argument. What that was a extended way of saying that God is the necessary preconditions for intelligibility.
Exactly.
Yeah, like Scott, like I straight up try to tell you in our debate on modern day debate, because you try to presuppose like I'm this atheist and this and that, and I'm like, dude, no, I just rage, man. And sometimes I rage about good stuff, sometimes I rage about bad stuff. Right now, you are talking to people that know how to combat you exactly, and
that's fine.
Like, but I really want, real quick, just really need to get the super chat in because it is important. It's a $20 super chat from Heavy Hauler, and he says, if he exists, created or allowed me to be born gay. It's not a choice. Being gay, I'm at risk for being treated badly, persecuted, or even killed. To top it off, I'm doomed to be tormented for all eternity. What the fuck? And I can
chime in on that? Can I chime in on that?
Same. Go ahead, one guy. I'll say something after.
Yeah, you've been patient, this one guy. Go ahead, but I don't.
Go ahead.
Real quickly, I don't want to get out the point that Dragnauct and Socka is trying to hammer home. So yeah, let's go for it because you've been patient. But let's get back to the point they're trying to hammer home here.
We will. Skyout, so let me ask you this question. Are you saying that homosexuals, or let me just sum it up with the LGBTQ, they're not going to heaven because of the way they are? Is that what your worldview is and the take on that? That they won't understand?
No, a gay person can go to heaven, but they have to be a non-practicing gay person. There's many.
How do you say non-practicing? What does that even mean?
I mean, I seriously said at some point during this live stream that I find Matt Powell to be somewhat more likable than people that say exactly what you just said.
Like, how is that even a thing, man?
Oh my God!
Like, you can't. That's not. You can't just have people come to Christ saying they're going to be gay. Let me read you something. This is something I wanted to read to you. It's Matthew 19:11-12. Okay. Not everyone can accept this word, he replied, but only those who have been given. I'm sorry, I'm really tired. I'm terrible at reading. For there are eunuchs who were born that way. Others were made that way by men. But still others live like eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. The one who can accept this should accept this. Now, that's the one things I want to say. It's talking about what we're talking about exactly. There's people who choose not to produce seeds, you know, and there's people that choose to live their way a certain life. It does not give them any right for us to say they can't live the way their life is Christ. As long as they don't have the sexual immorality to where it's in a sinful nature. And what I mean by that is it's more than what we would do mundane. Like it becomes an unhealthy obsession. Then it becomes a problem. Like I believe you shouldn't then necessarily have orgies. Orgies would be considered bad in that view. I think it should only be kept between two people. And as long as there's a foundation built on love, there is nothing wrong with it.
Hey, this one guy, don't be knocking on orgies, yo.
I was going to say, I'm cool with orgies as long as everybody's.
I'm sorry. Orgies are considered bad for me in that book because I think it has more to do with the love between one or two people.
Hit me up after the hangout, Marty.
I don't have a problem with it per se. You know, it's just that I think when it comes to love and like especially marriage, you know, that infidelity thing, you should keep it between the two and keep it within the house, or so to speak. Not like incest because that sounds nasty, but yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Well,
you know,
I mean,
it's just
but
for
to
that.
the biblical. I mean, I don't really see how even incest to a believer in Adam and Eve, for instance, like how is that a thing?
Lot and his daughters.
Yeah, about
Yeah,
that.
it gets confused. I'll leave that question up for the Jews. As a Christian, I said that's not me. That's a Jewish thing because that's back what happened back then. How am I going to say for something that happened back then? That's like saying your dog died 5 years ago. Your dog peed on my truck 5 years ago, but my dog is dead now. What am I supposed to do about that? I'm sorry, my dog peed on your truck.
If I can respond,
And real quick before we let Socka and Drag go back at Skyout, I just want to say for the record, I told Dr. Josh before this started, he wasn't sure when he was going on Scholar Fiction. I was like, dip out when you need to dip out. So that's why Dr. Josh left without saying anything. So, but
I still am supposed to
he
go
did
on
on
for
the
Scholar
side.
Fiction too. My bad.
He did on the side. If you look, he said he's going to hang out with the wife.
Oh, all right. So probably before, because it was
that what it's called,
gonna be
Skylar
later
Fiction?
than it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I put a video about it. It's called For the Love of Eunuchs. I made a video on my tube about it, but I don't think I did such a good job, and I put it on private. But if you all want to check it out and listen to what I have to say about the matter, you can. I'll make it on private, and so everyone can view it. But I try to go over it and how people like Matt Powell who thinks homosexuals are gonna go to hell and burn forever. I was like, you're misguided. You need to stop because that's not preaching love. That's preaching hate. And
Yeah.
Jesus wants us to preach love and hate, and that's what it's about. Even when people hate you,
This one
you
guy,
have to
me
show
and
them
you
some
have
love.
a lot of disagreements, but you know, if the godless and the God-fearing are going to coexist in this world, then this is an issue that you and people like you really need to hit home in your communities, because
Yeah, I'm
we
trying to.
are never going to accept the homophobia, and to us
It's not
always-
true. It's not true. It isn't.
It's just, you know, like I lived in that fucking closet. Like, you know, I can.
No one should be scared of God anyway, to be honest.
I lived in that fucking closet, Skyout, and you know, it's not the same closet, and I get in a lot of trouble when I compare the two, and I'm really not, because I completely understand that the homosexual closet is much different than the atheist closet I lived in when I was afraid to talk about what I was, you know, but.
I feel you, man. I'm in the same boat right now.
I'm kind of on a time crunch right now. I only got about 15 minutes.
But
Yeah, can we get back to
I want to
that
get back to you,
conversation?
Socka, so please go ahead, because don't
Yeah,
get
go
me
ahead.
but I did want to get back to you and Drag's point here, because it's an important one, Skywalker. I try to warn you somewhat about this shit when we debated on Modern Day Debate, but go ahead.
Hold up, I just want to say one thing. I'm going to dip out too because I got a lot of things going on over here. I just want to say it's fun. Rage, I want to talk to you more. I want to have a little one-on-one with you.
Yeah,
Probably
we need to have
I'll
a
message you
one-on-one.
about that.
There's been a lot between us, and we need to air out some shit. So yeah, definitely.
Perhaps I can have you on my channel. I'll schedule up, but I'm gonna bow out. Everyone, I love you. I
Come on
hope you
your
guys
channel.
check me out, and
brother.
I hope you all take care. All right, bye guys.
have a
Love.
good night.
So Sky, like I said, it's without being combative here. We're not trying to be competitive here, but let's just try to start from the beginning here. Let's just try to evaluate your epistemic framework.
Are you an atheist first?
Pardon me?
Are you an atheist?
I am. Yes.
Okay. So you would
Okay.
subscribe to evolution and like Richard Dawkins' atheism, right?
Well, I don't subscribe to Richard Dawkins' atheism. I don't think that I'm not sure what a Richard Dawkins atheism is.
Jesus.
Okay.
There's no such thing, Skyout. There's no such
Who would you give a reference of who's your favorite atheist?
What does it matter?
Like
Well, because I have like say, all right, I'm gonna put this.
Hold on, I'll answer it.
Go for it.
My favorite atheist is Dragnauct.
Yes, mine too. Yes.
Yeah.
Mine
He's an atheist. He's a pretty cool guy. I get along well with him. So
I'm not gonna lie. I've been public on Twitter. My personal atheist right now is Telltale Atheist. There's not a Telltale Atheism.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the question is. Like, but I mean, yeah, I'm an atheist. I like other atheists. I like Christians. I like a lot of people, and I'm also one of the people that's very critical of a lot of atheists as well, and their style of argumentation. You know, and I appreciate any type of correction from other atheists and Christians when I get something wrong. You know, I'm pretty open to that stuff.
So when you ask me what happens when you abandon God, you abandon moral reasoning and you move away.
Oh no. Listen, hey, we can skip ahead to like the moral arguments then too. But I mean, I think that we're probably going to run into pretty close to the same problem. Like, if I was to say that I subscribe to a version of ideal observer theory, you know, what would you say to that? Or that like I'm a anti-realist, but I'm still a universalist.
Okay. Well, okay.
Would you
basically
have any?
You're a compatibilist, right? You basically be a compatibilist. You're a universalist, compatibilist, and so you believe in both. Basically, a compatibilist of evolution and
Stop being an evolution. Oh my word.
Yeah, I'm not sure where evolution comes into this. It's not even required for that. But I mean, do you want to go back to talking about epistemology, or do you want to go back to ethical frameworks?
Well, I just want to ask you a simple question: where do you think that humans came from?
What does that
What do I think? Like me in general, or just like humans as a product of evolution?
How about y'all stick with the philosophy while Socka has time, and I'll answer the science questions after he's done.
Yeah,
Okay.
Drag will have you on that shit.
So so the question is like, okay, so it comes down to epistemology. There is is there a certain epistemic framework that you think that you subscribe to?
A systemic framework. Epistemic framework. The only framework that I would subscribe to would be the proper context of biblical hermeneutics and exegesis from my main authority of my category, my worldview, which would be Christianity. So your worldview would be
maybe I should clarify. Well, because like my worldview isn't atheist. My worldview is Bartholomew Robertisms. Okay. Like my worldview is a set of beliefs that I hold. It's a set of beliefs.
Brilliance is his worldview.
Yeah, or the Socka account worldview, or the Bartholomew Roberts worldview. Doesn't matter. It's just basically the set of beliefs that I hold to is my worldview. Okay, and we can discuss individual beliefs in there. That's fine, but I don't have an atheistic worldview. I have a worldview that does contain atheism, but it's not an atheistic worldview.
Just to put it out there, me and Socka,
but
we just had a disagreement on political issues not too long ago. We argued for hours, and guess what? It's cool, dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here, okay, is that just from because you brought up the theories of knowledge here, okay. So I'm just asking you, what kind of theory of knowledge do you subscribe to?
Revelation from God.
Okay. So can you explain to me now what it is so within your theory of the revelation of God, okay, how does that work to get you to knowledge? Like what's the methodology that's involved in this?
Through the logical absolutes. So we have something called logical absolutes, like the law of non-contradiction, the law of excluded middle. So something can't be something and be not something at the same time.
Okay, fair enough. So what what it sounds like here is that like you have a starting point, okay, and your starting point that you're putting out there is, for example, the logical absolutes, okay, that's fine, but you're just saying that this is revelationary from God, and that's just, I mean, I'm not sure why that step's needed in here, but let's just go with it sounds like you're almost kind of advocating for a type of foundationalism. Okay, is that you have certain presuppositions that you start with, properly basic beliefs, and then you build up knowledge on top of this, like like a reverse pyramid. Like starting with your presuppositions that you do hold, you can have knowledge claims further down the road.
Sure.
Does that kind of fit the shape of what it means?
But the problem is when you say I start with my presupposition, how do you know your presupposition is valid or true?
I don't have a presupposition. I'm a coherentist. I think that your entire framework is kind of wonky, but that's beside the point. We're talking about yours right now.
Well, you said you're a coherentist, but how do you know being a coherentist is absolute, since you don't believe in anything that's absolute?
Why does there have to be?
What do you mean absolute? Like unchanging? Like, are you asking like that?
Like the laws of physics.
Yeah, it coheres. I mean, listen. Like, if you want me to unpack like all of coherentism, I would actually probably recommend that you take a dive into it. Understand some of it, so we can get past the questions that really aren't relevant to the conversation. But let's go back to your epistemic framework here, okay? So you start off with certain presuppositions, okay? You said that logical absolutes is one of those things that's you start off as a presupposition, or would you call that like a properly basic belief in your worldview?
No, that wouldn't be. That's just one argument of what we're talking about in this category of very low category of what it means to even find a creator and to believe in God. This is basically. When
you say that you know something, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. What does it mean to know something? Like, first off, let's start off with, is knowledge a subset of belief?
Is knowledge subset of belief?
Right. Like, that all knowledge claims are also belief claims. But not all belief claims are knowledge claims.
I wouldn't say that, because knowledge claims to be facts. They don't have to be beliefs.
No, but so do you know what is a okay? Let's strip this right down. What is a belief?
A belief is something that is you hope for that it's true. It could be also scientifically proven.
No. Okay. No. So that's when we talk about beliefs. That's not really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's any proposition about the state of reality that we think is true.
Like you say, I believe that there's a sky that can be scientifically proven.
Yeah, but when we talk about a belief has to be relationary to some aspect of reality, generally in some type of affirmative affirmation of it. So like, I believe that I'm sitting in my car. It means that I think that there's a state of reality, like a state of affairs in reality, in which the statement I'm sitting in my car is true. Okay, a belief is just any proposition about reality that you think is true. Okay, so if you're to advocate for something, you say, I believe this, you're putting out kind of an idea that you think corresponds to reality. Like that's kind of what you're getting at usually, especially if you subscribe to like a correspondence theory of truth. Okay, now when you go for knowledge, okay, now a knowledge would still be a proposition about reality that you think is true, plus there's going to be some other factors that come into it that separate that statement from just a mere belief. So, when you talk about a belief, like would you agree that talking about a belief is just referring to any proposition about reality that one thinks is true?
I wouldn't say one thinks it's true. I wouldn't say you say one thinks it's true, because that could be a deception or an illusion. You could be delusional if you just say, well, I think that's true. I just think that's true.
Well, yeah, you could be delusional. Beliefs don't have to be true. Right. It has to be what you think is true. Right? So I account for that within the definition.
Do you believe that God revealing things to you is a false belief and that's not true?
I believe it's an unfalsifiable belief.
So it's impossible that God can reveal things to you. You know that for a fact. You know that.
I know that God can reveal things?
How do you know that God can't reveal things to you? How do you know that?
You know what, Ben? You're talking Greek right now because you haven't provided any type of methodology in which you even know things separate from beliefs.
But you said
that's what we're trying to get to at this point in time.
You just said you have knowledge.
I do have knowledge, but we're talking about your worldview here. We're talking about your epistemic framework, and like it's taken a while just to even get to the point where we can even make a belief claim about understand what a belief claim is from you. So what we're trying to get to is that so I can answer these questions is when we're talking about knowledge compared to when you're talking about belief. What is the separation between these things?
My knowledge comes from revelation from God, just like you do, but you're suppressing that knowledge in sin and in unrighteousness.
Right. Yeah. But so this is the part now where that's just a claim. You know, you're just throwing this out there, like kind of like a toss, toss away whatever thing.
Okay. You have knowledge that my claim is false.
Well, but here's the thing: is that like now you're just shifting the burden of proof. What I want you to do is I want you to validate your claim.
I want to see.
No, I want you to validate your claim. You made a claim that I'm suppressing something in my unrighteousness. Okay, can you validate that, or are we just going to throw out empty assertions all night?
I can validate it because you're basically saying that it's impossible to God to reveal without any knowledge.
I never said that. I said that it's unfalsifiable. Oh, hold on a second, Skyout. Before you jump in here and start trying to assume what I'm thinking here, maybe you should listen to what I said. I said that it was unfalsifiable. Like I don't know what this means. Plus the other part that I have. No, hold on, Skyout. Hold on. Okay, I never said it was impossible. Okay, what's happening is you're trying to fall into a script now. All right.
No.
Now I never said it was impossible. I said that it was unfalsifiable because I just don't even know what you're talking about right now. We haven't even set up the precondition of what it means for something to be considered knowledge separate from belief.
But you can't know everything.
Like 2 minutes ago, I had to explain to you what a belief was. Okay, can you explain to me what knowledge is and what's the line of demarcation between something being a mere belief and something being considered knowledge?
Revelation from God.
Okay, so how does this work? What's the methodology in which this happens? Does it get whispered in your ear, zapped in your brain? Like
that's what I mean. When you say zapped in your brain and whispering,
well, I'm asking. Yeah,
those are your degrees of knowledge because you don't know everything, so you're just kind of guessing of how God communicates to me. That's not.
I'm asking you. No, what I'm doing is I'm opening up the floor for you to explain how it is that you can come to knowledge about something. And so far, you just said so far all you've said is revelation from God. But what kind of revelation? Are we talking about special revelation here? Are we talking about natural revelation, general revelation? How many type of revelations are there, by the way? Do you know?
It depends on the person, what kind of revelation you receive, based on your heart and based on your conscience.
So would it be special revelation?
It can be any type of revelation. It depends on you. It depends on your heart.
It could be okay. So it could be special revelation or natural revelation. Huh.
Sure.
That's interesting.
God
because special revelation would be, something that would probably be like a priori. Well, a natural revelation would be something that would be a posteriori. So how does that work with the the coming to the knowledge afterwards?
Well, I just don't understand how you automatically assume and have knowledge that God cannot reveal things to you.
Well, you haven't explained how it's even possible to begin with. I mean, like you haven't even explained what knowledge is. Maybe we should start off with this, like trying to get to the core of what you even mean when you say that you have knowledge from something. Like it seems like you're just kind of floundering here, and I just don't understand why.
Well, you have knowledge too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have an epistemic framework that I think is coherent, and that allows me to come to knowledge from something.
Is it possible that God could exist in the knowledge you don't have?
The knowledge that I don't have. So so are you saying that God only exists as a mere concept that I might not be aware of? Or does God actually exist in some type of ontological form? Again, like that's just a weird question, the way that you phrase it.
I'm saying that there's a knowledge out there. There's maybe evidence or knowledge you're not aware of because you don't know everything. You're not God. So basically, if there is a possibility that God could exist and he could reveal things to you and you don't have the knowledge of that, could God exist?
Okay. So I mean, that's a great point. So you're saying that God, through revelational epistemology that you're putting out there, can give you the knowledge that you don't have direct access to, is right?
Through his word, yeah.
Sounds good. How many coins are in my ashtray right now?
That's retarded. That doesn't mean anything.
How is that retarded? I'm asking you to make a knowledge claim about something. Like, dive into your revelational epistemology. Have God whisper into your ear right now, how many coins are in my ashtray?
That's what do you think God is like the movie from Aladdin? He's Will Smith. That's not God.
Well, that's what you're saying. God is. You're saying that in order for you, you're saying that in order for you to gain knowledge about something, that this is stuff that's revealed to you by God. So we're putting this to the test. I have an ashtray in my car. It's full of coins. I'm sure God, who's I would say you would think would be omniscient, would know exactly how many coins are in there. So let's put this revelational epistemology to the test. Let's have God reveal to you how many coins are in my ashtray.
I think God would reveal if you had kidney disease, something a little bit more important than your coins.
Oh, okay. So that's what it is that God doesn't reveal all knowledge to you. There's only some things that God can reveal to you, not everything.
Yeah, based on your heart.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so that's great. So the only stuff that you think that you can know is the stuff that God directly reveals to you.
Through his revelation, yes.
Okay, so what was the last thing that God revealed to you?
Through his word.
Like what, the Bible?
Yeah, that I have faith in Christ, that he can reveal. He's real. He exists. He's existential.
I think the question is, what has Christ revealed to you directly?
Okay, so I get it now. So when you say that something's been revealed to you, through special revelation, you're talking that as long as you take on the presupposition or the a priori kind of belief here that the Bible is true and accurate, then you can come to conclusions about the world. I mean, that doesn't seem like a very good. I mean, it starts with a huge assumption.
I'm not too sure where you're getting at from there.
I'm getting at the point that you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, but that's
I think
a
you're
subtle
getting
point.
angry. I think you're now getting angry.
No, this is not angry. This is actually hilarious for me. Okay, so let's start off this way. Let's start off this way. What if God reveals to you some knowledge, okay, and it takes something from being a mere belief to something that you know, and because you now know it, it has different characteristics from a belief. What are those characteristics?
It depends on the knowledge that you receive.
Oh, okay.
It's
we're trying to get a definition of knowledge here.
If I tell you, you're going to think I'm delusional because it's different from every person. It's different. Just like
it just seems that you don't have a coherent kind of example of what knowledge is. Like you can't explain to me what knowledge is. Well, it's based off of what you're saying right now. I said it appears that this is the case. Because when I ask you to try to define what knowledge is, or at least what the characteristics of some type of piece of knowledge is, you can't even do this. So when you ask me a question, for example, like if I know something, well, I think that I can know something, but let's try to keep this within your worldview. Like I'm going to base my knowledge on the way that you kind of translate this to me. So if you can give me a definition of knowledge, well, then I could definitely understand whether or not there is something that I know. But I have to have some type of characteristics of that knowledge. So if you want to get to the point where you ever want to ask me a question about whether I know something, you have to give me a definition of what it means to know something.
Okay, I'm giving you a definition to know Jesus. There you go.
That's not a definition, that's a claim.
That's not a definition at all. Do you know, I'm sorry. This I don't mean to make this sound embarrassing, but do you know what a definition is?
No.
Okay. All right. I mean, there's really not much we can go on here.
Yeah.
How about this? Like, have you ever heard, within the precept videos there, like people talk about justified true belief?
Yeah, that's that side 10 bullshit.
Okay. Now, why is that bullshit?
Well, because there's different types of beliefs. There's evidential beliefs. There's different kinds of beliefs that you can get. There's historical beliefs. So you don't always have
fine. They all fit in the same category. Remember what I said? What's the definition of a belief?
A belief is that you believe that it's going to come true.
Do you know how nonsensical it is to try to define something by using the very word you're trying to define?
Yeah, but you're basically saying things that you don't know.
I mean, how do you do this? Like, how do you jump into these conversations and try to talk about, epistemic frameworks and not have the foggiest understanding of what you're even getting into?
I don't see your point.
I know, which is sad.
God, he's got God behind him, so he thinks he's invincible. I'm joking. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Hey, Skyout, listen. Drake's gonna give you a link to a Discord server, and feel free to come in anytime, and we can go over this, and maybe we can set you right. Okay?
What are you talking about? Set me right. I'm not going to be an atheist. What are you talking about?
Oh no, this has nothing to do with atheism. Oh God, no, jeez. Like I don't want to turn you into an atheist.
No.
Okay. I don't think I have. There's nothing within my desires that wants more atheism in the world.
I don't see your purpose.
Okay.
Or goal.
Well, what I want to, my goal is to help you. Okay. I'm a nice guy like that. Okay. So if you ever want to go in here and we can start off with the basic understandings of this conversation.
You don't have knowledge that God reveal things to you.
Yeah, I've already kind of addressed all this. It's kind of repetitive at
I'm
this point in
curious,
time.
Socka, this is painful. Socka, I want to ask him one question. I know you got to go. Skyout, does Socka have axioms?
Yeah, they're based on necessary truth claims for knowledge.
Yeah, see, he doesn't
even know why that's
Wow.
funny. That's what's hilarious about this. He doesn't even know. That's what's funny. Okay, that's all.
Oh man, I know. It's
Dear me.
sad.
So what if he has axioms? They're not true.
No, the point is, what Socka was offering is that you know very little about epistemology, but you're trying to tell him
That's
what his
fine.
position is.
I don't have to know everything about epistemology.
No. It's not
not about-
everything.
yeah.
It's not everything. I mean, the basics, literally the basics about
You don't know the
epistemology.
basics of
This
theology.
last-
I can give you a theology
hold on.
lesson
Hold
right
on,
now.
the last 30 minutes was him teaching or attempting to teach you basic philosophy that you would learn literally in any Christian university,
say anything
any
in
secular
30 minutes.
university, because you don't understand. That's part of the problem. You have no idea what you're talking about. And every time he tried to
don't know
qualify the
that.
statement, you got upset because you don't actually know what he's saying. You have no
Yeah,
idea. When I asked
you
the
sound pretty upset right now, man.
yeah, I mean, it's clear. It's clear that you were way out of your league. But dude, like, it's fine. It happens. It's not a big deal. That if he's willing to take time out of his day and to go over like some of the basics, because what you're attacking.
I'm not trying to win a debate right now. This is not.
No, I know.
It's not. Yeah.
I know it's not winning. Trust me, you're far from that. But just having just understanding.
I don't care.
It's obvious. If you want to tell,
Why do you not care? Why is it that you, I'm sorry, I'm curious. Like, why is it that you don't care about having a good framework in which that you can actually accurately explain what it means to know something? I mean, if you don't care about this, then why is it that you even try to appeal to knowledge at all? Like, it just seems ridiculous that you want to try to attack people for their knowledge positions, but yet you don't care about what it even means to articulate a knowledge position. That's just weird.
Well, everything you say is diatribe nonsense. So
really, that's it's funny because if you were to actually play this clip to anyone who has spent any time in a philosophy course, they would tell people do care because it's clear that you're upset. It's clear that you're agitated because you are, because you cut me off now. You didn't do that earlier. Now you're cutting me off because you know that what we're.
You should calm down, buddy. Calm down. It's okay, man.
It's not a big deal. Like, it happens. Like, you step into the ring with folks who know a little bit more than you. I've done the same thing. I've made an ass of myself. I'm the first person to tell you. But the problem I see with a lot of folks is that you won't take a step back and actually say, you know what? The stuff that I'm saying to this guy isn't going through, and I have no idea what he's talking about when he's mentioning these things. That means that there's a disparity between our knowledge. And so if I'm asserting these things and there's nothing penetrating, I'm not understanding what he's saying, I need to rectify that in some way, shape, or form. So before you start telling a coherentist that he has axioms, you may want to understand why we all just laughed at you.
Because big deal, he's a coherentist. He can't.
Do you know what that is?
Axioms? Do you actually understand why that's funny?
No one cares what that is.
Thank you. Literally, this is why Precept failed. This is why we laugh at Precept, because you guys are too ignorant to understand how much you guys don't actually know. Like, I put a link in the side chat while he was mentioned, just to throw you a bone. I put a link in the side chat to coherentism just to help you out. Have you even bothered clicking on it?
What are you trying to help me with?
Understand what the fuck he's saying.
Yeah. See, now you're Christian. I'm a Christian. I don't respond.
Okay, so to understand what the freak he's saying, is that better?
Jesus Christ!
I don't have to use profanity, but it's like, man, like, you are so upset right now because you've been made a fool.
I'm not cursing. You're the one who's cursing.
Okay, well, you can be upset without cursing too.
What the fuck does it matter if he curses or not?
I mean, if that's your measure of
because I'm a Christian.
Because you're Christian.
So
Do Christians start interrupting people when they get upset?
Hey, listen, I do have to bow out though. Skyout, it's been fun. Greg, give him the Discord link.
Give it to him.
I'll talk to you. I want to talk to you later.
I do apologize if I was rude. You weren't
rude.
You're being rude.
Yeah.